What if I told you one of the most brutal modern wars in human history was won, at least in part, by a dusty old book most people only crack open on Sundays? Not with bullets or bayonets, but with a story, a 3,000-year-old playbook hiding in plain sight. Hello, I'm Candi. I collect bones, bullets, and bad decisions from history, and welcome to my cabinet of curiosities. Today's centerpiece? A single page from a 1688 copy of the 1611 King James Bible, straight out of Joshua. You know, the book where walls tumble and God's basically handing out real estate tips with a side of smiting. Framed like a wanted poster, because, let's face it, words this old deserve protection from my Cheeto dusty fingies. The Bible is known as the sword of the Spirit, meant for us to battle against principalities, powers, and rulers of the darkness of this world in a spiritual warfare. But it can also be used as a roadmap for battles and warfare of a more physical sort. This is the story of how the Bible helped the British win a battle in World War I. Let's set the stage first, shall we? Because nothing says epic tale like a little geopolitical foreplay. So picture this. It's 1914, Europe's gone full toddler tantrum mode, Archduke Franz Ferdinand gets popped in Sarajevo, and suddenly everyone's alliances are dragging them into the mud pit. The British Empire? They're like the overachieving sibling fighting on every front. But down in the Middle East, things get a little spicier because the Ottoman Empire, those guys who've been ruling from Istanbul, or Constantinople, like it's their personal kebab stand, side with the Germans and Austro-Hungarians. Bad move, Turks. Now Britain's got beef, which is still infinitely better than beans on toast.
Disgusting!
So, the Brits decided they wanted to wage a modern-day version of a holy war. They wanted then Ottoman-controlled Palestine. Yes, the whole thing was called Palestine back then. Why Palestine, you ask? Well, it wasn't just for the hummus. The Brits had this little lifeline called the Suez Canal, basically their express lane to India and all that sweet, sweet empire bling. The Ottomans? They're eyeing it like a cat stares at a goldfish bowl.
But goldfish hate cats.
If the Turks take the Suez, Britain's global shopping spree is effectively over. Also, there's oil oozing up in the Mesopotamia, and nobody wants the Kaiser getting his crowdy hands on that. Everyone knows that ExxonMobil was promised that oil 3,000 years ago. Oh, and let's not forget the propaganda win. Capturing Jerusalem, the holy city, that's like Christmas for morale back home. The overall goal? Knock the Ottomans out of the war, secure the Middle East for British interests, weaken the Central Powers, and maybe redrop some maps while they're at it. Enter General Allenby, aka the Bloody Bull. Named as such because of his powerful physical stature and because he gets a little angry.
Why, you little maggot! You make me want to vomit!
Well, probably not a pleasure to work with. He got the job done. And in the middle of a war, that's what you want. Allenby was tasked with the Sinai and Palestine campaign, and at first he thought the Middle East campaign was a total joke, and that the real fight was on the Western Front. I mean, that's where the Germans are, and all the war was going on, right? Well, he received his orders from on high. The War Cabinet wanted him on the Palestine front. So that's where he went. The task was to push north from Egypt, smash through Gaza, and march on Jerusalem. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? No. The first two battles of Gaza in 1917 were absolute crap shows. British troops getting shredded by Ottoman defenses, heat, dysentery, the works. Morale's in the toilet, and the desert's not helping with its whole endless scorpions and sand vibe.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
By late 1917, Allenby starts regrouping for a third go at Gaza. The Ottoman Turks are entrenched on high cliffs, decorated with barbed wire, machine guns, and artillery. It's a total kill zone. The Brits have been hammering away for months, men falling left and right like they had dirt on the Clintons. But Allenby pulled off a clever fake-out during the Third Battle of Gaza. He convinced the Ottomans that Gaza was the main target, complete with planted fake plans and everything. Then hit Beersheba instead, catching them completely off guard. The bonus prize was a desperately needed water supply, which in the desert is worth way more than gold. From there, his forces pushed north, beating Ottoman troops again and nudging them out of Jerusalem. By December 9th, 1917, the city fell. Jerusalem was officially conquered by Christians, the first time since the Crusades. What really stood out, though, was how Allenby handled the aftermath. Instead of charging in like a conqueror, he entered Jerusalem on foot out of respect for its religious importance. Because even a bull knows when to bow. But they weren't quite done yet. In February of 1918, soldiers were given the order to attack Jericho and drive the Turks over the River Jordan. The book of Joshua explains how the Israelites took over Jericho following orders from their commander-in-chief, God. The men of war marched around the walls of Jericho once a day for 6 days in total silence, while priests carried the Ark of the Covenant and blew their trumpets. Then, on the 7th day, they went around the city 7 times, blew the trumpets, and Joshua gave the signal to shout.
Shout, shout, let it all out.
Then the walls crumbled around them, and the soldiers besieged the city. Well, Allenby, the bull, didn't have an ark or express directions by God on how to attack Jericho. What he did have was a Bible. Army cook and machine gun officer Major Vivian Gilbert wrote a book called Romance of the Last Crusade about he and other soldiers all brought along their Bibles, probably partially to steady their faith in the midst of so much darkness, but also so they could read up about the region. They knew that before they could take on Jericho directly, they had to strengthen their line by capturing a small village to their front called Michmash. They already had a plan in place. Full frontal assault supported by artillery and machine guns with an entire brigade. Attack just before dawn. Everyone went to sleep for the night, anxious for the following morning's fight. But according to Major Gilbert, the brigade major was in his tent wondering, where have I heard Michmash before? Was it in the Bible or did I see that in an Irish cookbook somewhere? And boom! Epiphany. He lands on 1 Samuel 14. It reads, "And between the passages by which Jonathan sought to go over unto the Philistines' garrison, there was a sharp rock on the one side and a sharp rock on the other side. And the name of the one was Bozez, and the name of the other, Seneh. The forefront of the one was situate northward over against Michmash, and the other southward over against Gibeah. And Jonathan said to the young man that bare his armor, Come, and let us go over unto the garrison of these uncircumcised. It may be that the Lord will work for us. For there is no restraint to the Lord to save by many or by few." He read about Jonathan, the son of King Saul, and his armor-bearer sneaking up that same cliff 3,000-ish years ago, surprising the Philistines and causing biblical chaos, resulting in triumph. He woke up the brigadier, and they read the passage over again. They checked the map, they sent out scouts to check the area. Same valley, same crags, Bozez and Seneh, straight out of scripture. It was like the Holy Land left a cheat code lying around. So they used their Bible as their playbook. Instead of an entire brigade, they sent a small infantry company alone at night along that pass at Michmash, while most of the Turks were still snoozing. A few were quietly dealt with. They went between Bozez and Seneh, climbed the hillside, and found the rest of the Turks still sleeping. Joshua 1:9 says, "Be strong and of a good courage," and could have been Gilbert's mantra as he and his boys stormed over the edge. The Turks panic like it's the end times. Well, for them it probably was. The Turks thought the entire Allenby army was right on top of them. They scrambled, fled, and fought like a battle straight out of the Old Testament. And by dawn, every Turk in Michmash was killed or captured, and the pass was in British hands. And shortly thereafter, they did end up capturing Jericho. Not with a silent parade or trumpets or shouting, but they still managed it nonetheless. Does God fight on the side with the biggest guns? Almost exclusively, no. More often than not, it's the side with the most faith and the oldest playbook. This page reminds us, history is a loop, and in the darkest of times, when things seem most impossible, Scripture can be your battle map, literally and figuratively. Turns out sometimes the difference between a massacre and a miracle is just knowing where to flip the page. That's it from the cabinet. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you would like to see more of my content, please press the like and subscribe buttons. And as always, stay weird and tell your dog I said hi!